Hey Flomies, today I wanted to talk to you about a theme of my journals that I call expansion and contraction. So, in the worlds of flow and juggling, we don't get better in a straight line. If you have time on the x axis, skill on the y axis, you don't just get better in a straight line. You expand to learn a bunch of new tricks and patterns, and you contract to master them. Really good performing flow artists intentionally swap between the two. Yes, there is a lot of dopamine to be had from learning new tricks, especially posting them and saying, look, I learned something new. But if you really want the respect of the elite and people in general, you must contract, which takes a lot more time than expansion. Cleaning something up takes a lot more effort and time than we realize. So today I wanted to talk about 10 different ideas and examples of expansion and contraction in the realm of flow arts and juggling. So the first topic is obviously trick refinement. This is where you go to jams, watch tutorials, watch other artists' posts, and begin to understand what they're doing and do it for yourself. As you expand to accrue new patterns, you must also contract and select the ones you actually want to do. This is the most basic of all expansion and contraction. So I like to start here because if we can all agree that if you learn a trick on a Monday, you're probably not ready to perform it on a Friday, then we're on the same page. Think of the artists who have a style that's really unique. They probably have a lot of other tricks they could be doing, but they choose to show you those select few because they're known for doing it, and they do it with so much confidence that it can only have been earned over the course of, I would say, a trick to refine is minimum of 3 months of doing it just about every day in the context of performance practice, like choreographed to a song or choreographed as part of a bigger combo. I do think it's cool when DJs will say, yo, I made this song in my hotel last night, and they drop it and it's sick. But I don't think in the movement arts that's as cool. I think it's cooler to see somebody say, yeah, I've been refining this for 3 months and I think it's ready. I don't know what it is about movement arts, but it's such a delicate balance between having a unique style and pushing the envelope as far as inventing new tricks and refining it so we actually look like practiced artists to the rest of the world. The second topic is about transitions. So the first topic is about selecting the tricks, but now I'd like to talk about contracting in terms of only selecting the tricks that actually have smooth transitions. I believe the audience doesn't always remember your tricks, but they do remember your flow. And flow is achieved by smooth transitions between patterns. In my other vlog, I explored the idea that to get really good, you don't just practice tricks and patterns, you practice the transitions between them. And when you expand, you learn a bunch of cool shapes in isolation. But when you contract, you form them all into one piece, and transitions are a critical part of that. The third example of expansion and contraction is events. Or performances, it could be just attending or performing at them. Either way, the idea is you don't just say yes to every event that wants to hire you or take your money. If you go to a music festival every weekend, you'll probably be sleep deprived and you'll never be able to expand and contract your performance. If you go to a different travel gig, even if it pays well every weekend, you'll probably be doing the same performance at each one because you may not have the time to focus on expanding and learning new material between those gigs. Where I'm sitting right now, I have usually one big show per quarter. It's like 2 or 3 of them are in the summer, and then I have one big one in the winter and one big one in the spring usually. Yes, over time you will do more gigs, but there will be a time of expansion where you actually do too many gigs and you realize it takes away from your ability to expand your trick base. When I was in Florida, I expanded to doing 2 gigs a week, and the pay was $200 plus whatever tips I could earn. And I was a teacher, so I wanted the money. But I didn't learn that many new tricks and patterns during that time because I was always thinking about refining the tricks I was going to do for my performance. It was an interesting time because I got what I wanted, but it turned out that the next thing I wanted would require me to sacrifice or adjust what I wanted. Does that make sense? So when you are first starting, you'll take any gig. Then you get good enough to where gigs are hitting you up, and you actually have to say no to about probably maybe 1/3 or 2/3 of them in order to do a job so good at the few that you feel good about it. And I see a lot of flow artists taking every gig, and yeah, they post a lot. Oh, I performed again. Oh, I performed again. But I can just tell they're not that happy with themselves because they're just doing the same tricks. There are some people that want to have a ratio of trick expansion, contracting it and showing it off. Trick expansion, choosing new tricks and adding it and showing it off. That's that intrinsic satisfaction. Extrinsic satisfaction is money, likes, shares, comments, etc. Intrinsic satisfaction is like patting yourself on the back. You're laying in bed at night saying, I can't believe I pulled off that new trick on stage. That's awesome. So when it comes to events, there will be a time when you start saying no, and that's a good sign. The fourth topic is like Instagram or Facebook content. There comes a time when you have so many tricks and outfits and songs or whatever that you want to post a lot and you get some good engagement. But that's expansion, and then you find out which videos resonate best with your audience. For me, it's tutorials and performance videos and like humor. And so I try to focus on doing a better job, improving the quality of each of those, and really letting the ideas percolate before I post so much. There are times when you want to expand and get a bunch of new followers, so you'll do a blitz or whatever where you post every day for a week. And then you let those percolate and you let the algorithm show you which ones of those your audience really likes. When it comes to content, there's so many different strategies. All I'm going to say is you should expand, do periods where you post every day, and then contract, do one a week or one a month, but try to improve the production quality or the amount of new tricks in it. Go for density and quality rather than just quantity when you're contracting, your social media visibility or quality. I didn't say that very well. I guess what I'm saying is your audience grows when your work becomes recognizable and focused. I think that if you post a bunch of slop, you'll get the same people over and over, but you'll never get the attention of like the elite spinners that you really want to validate you. Elite spinners have already gone through their cycle of expansion and they've contracted to develop their signature style. And those videos that absolutely blow up, sometimes it'll be a month between posts. I encourage you to try that schedule out. Now, if you don't have the quality, those posts will absolutely bomb because Instagram likes when you do post every day. They actually reward that by showing it to more people. So experiment for yourself. And I do want to hear your perspective on this. Do you think it's better to just hard commit every day from now on you post something? Or do you think it's better to increase the gap, the interval between posts over time, and also to try to bump up your quality? Neither way is right, neither way is wrong. It's just something I encourage you to do. The fifth example of expansion and then contraction is like collaborating widely versus focusing on a core team. So when I first started, I was willing to work with anybody, no matter their skill level, no matter which prop they did. I wanted to be known in my community as somebody who would collaborate with anyone. And so I expanded what I was willing to do. I expanded my budget. I bought a bunch of new props. I expanded my territory, how far I was willing to drive to like teach or attend one flow arts class. And I expanded the people I would collaborate with, collaborators on Instagram. Well, over time, I've realized some of those people don't match my brand or they don't match my vision, and I don't collaborate with them anymore, right? I've realized that being known for working with a core group, like for me, it's the Pyromancers in Portland, at least for right now, that increases my focus. And when focus increases, quality improves, right? I see a lot of artists who just work with any group and collab with anyone online to improve their reach and get seen by more people, that's excellent. I encourage that at the beginning of the journey. But over time, I encourage you to be more selective and contract your inner circle and see if you can improve your quality through deep focus and like much deeper, more meaningful conversations about what you want the flow arts and juggling act to represent. For example, for me, I want each act to represent me learning a new pattern, expanding my vocabulary of patterns, and then contracting to getting it to look really fun and smooth. I also want to expand my vocabulary and learn at least one new partner pattern or like partner moment, tunneling, passing, partner weaves, partner acro, and then I want to contract and do it really well. What's funny is in each new act I do, the new things account for like maybe 10 to 20 seconds at a time. They're really not that much, but they represent my ability to collaborate with others. I believe that in my current stage where I'm in, collaboration is far more important than any sick pattern I can do by myself. So I've contracted quite a bit on the number of juggling patterns I do because it's typically just like a cherry on top of the sequence. It's usually two individuals apart from each other. They come together to do tunneling. I step apart, do a big epic juggling pattern, collect, go back into tunneling or something, and then we split apart again. The finale is rarely like me juggling or doing my sick patterns. That's usually like a transition trick to give the partner I'm working with like time to go get another prop or to set up for the next tunnel. And that's flipped. I used to have my juggling be the finale, and it feels really good to expand beyond my own previous limits and contract into the world of like partner dance. So that's just an example. Will I be this way forever? I don't know. I hope so, because I really like it, but I wouldn't mind expanding again and expanding back into solo work or expanding into 3, 4, 5 person patterns. I don't know what I will contract into. I just know that as I expand, I get more options, and it feels good to say no to the vast majority of them to focus on the few that connect me more deeply with other local artists. Okay, that was kind of a long ramble. That is to say that collaborating widely is the expansion, and then building a core performance team is the contraction. I wrote that you spin and perform with many artists to explore styles and personalities. You find out whom you vibe with, whom you just connect with, whom you create the best art with. And then contraction is when you identify 2 to 5 collaborators who consistently elevate your work, where you two working together, you both get more views or more pay or more opportunities than you would just by yourself as individuals. Collaboration is amazing, but you don't want to jump into it too soon. You want to do it a little step by step, because you can end up shooting yourself in the foot by 2 amateurs collaborating, and they don't have the technical skill or the safety skill or the prop, base. They don't have enough props to choose from to make an awesome show. So there is a certain amount of expansion you must do as an introvert before you start working with others. Where and when those boundaries are, only you can decide for yourself. All right, so the 6th example of expansion and contraction is the balance between getting new props and mastering the ones you already have. As someone who has spent 6 figures on flow arts, props, and costumes and lessons, I have expanded a lot. I have also contracted a lot. I've sold probably a third or half of all those props that I once had, or donated them. And if you look behind me, you'll see the flip sticks from Flow on Fire. They're passing contact swords that I got to learn fire sword passing with a local sword juggler. We did an act together, so I expanded and learned to juggle fire swords, and I contracted. Over the course of a week, we selected the patterns we wanted to do together, and we're going to expand again when we start passing these to train for another fire sword act. We both are the types of people who have plenty of patterns, and we could complacently do the same patterns over and over, but within us, we want the satisfaction of learning new tricks and doing them on stage under pressure. So I bought the colored, lighthearted version of them so we can expand over the course of hopefully 3 to 6 months and contract and select the few patterns that we really like from that new cluster of tricks. This is an easy one, folks. I wouldn't buy new props until you do at least one project with the old one or sell the old one. It's really easy to hang $3,000 worth of props on your wall and go, look at me, I'm a prop collector. What's not easy is actually doing something with each of them. So for example, as soon as I got my new jump ropes from Flow on Fire, the black light reactive ones, I set up a weekly meeting with my local jump rope enthusiasts where I'm going to put those new props to use. Otherwise, I really won't use them that much. Another example is as soon as I got the fire jump ropes, I brought them to a festival and started handing them out to people and like jump roping with people because of how fun it was. It's dangerous, but it really is fun. So I expanded the props I had, and I didn't really contract. I guess you're not selective with it, but you go do a project with them right away or do a thing with them right away so they don't just sit there. Speaking from experience, it's painful to waste money on something you don't use. I kind of need your input on this one. I don't really know when to get a new prop. I guess go until the old one doesn't serve you anymore or performing with it would be embarrassing and you need to upgrade. I will say this, like each new prop that you get will massively confuse your brain during flow sessions because rather than putting in the focus you need to level up your original prop you're trying to master, you'll be like, I'll just go work on something easy with my new prop. So they do confound your focus when you have more than 2 or 3 props available. Now to every jam I bring balls, clubs, pulley, and triple staffs. It is harder for me to level up when I have 4 different things to switch between. I don't always reach a flow state with each one. I grind a little bit, switch, grind a little bit, switch. Is that healthy? Perhaps. At my level, it's okay. It's not optimal, but it does allow me to connect with everyone at the jam who spins each of those individual props. And I am in a period of expansion, so I use each prop to expand and connect with new people. And then over the course of a couple months, I'll contract and select the people and props that I'd really like to pursue. Yeah, I feel pretty good. This topic took me like 3 or 4 tries to get. It's hard for me to articulate expanding and getting new props and contracting, choosing which ones you're going to use, because sometimes the prop chooses you. Your hoops will just jump out at you, or you finally learn 5-ball, or you finally learn club juggling after you've had them for 2 years. That's how it was for me. I hope yours is a little more focused and guided than that. But we're all on our own journeys. So share your experience. I would like to know, which props did you buy? After a year, did you just sell them? Or did you actually pick them up after a year and you're glad that they sat on your shelf for that long? Okay, the 7th type of expansion and contraction is physical pushing as expansion, and then injury recovery and body awareness as contraction. So you push your limits with long practice sessions, new tricks, endurance and stamina. And then contraction is when you rest, stretch, let your injuries heal, and rebuild your fundamentals slowly with proper form. I know a lot of artists who have like shoulder injuries. I personally got bicep tendonitis from like doing too many like straight arm pull-ups and then trying to learn like crossed arm juggling patterns. And I had to let myself heal for like, I want to say 3 months of really no juggling, especially not that trick. And that was a tough one because it would always feel like it was healed, but then it never was actually fully healed. So the expansion is easy a lot of times. The contraction and letting your body heal is actually quite difficult because you have to go longer than you think you do to heal. Especially I'm 34. I've kind of beaten up my body over the years. It takes me a long time to heal. Even like cuts and hangnails and stuff take like 10 times longer than they used to. My skin's dry, my joints are not as limber. And if I hyperextend something or fatigues like a shoulder joint or an ankle or something, it takes like weeks just to get back to the baseline. So as we age, the physical expansion is always easier because we're like, oh, I'm still a whippersnapper, I can still do it. But the contraction is oftentimes not our choice. So that's why like projects like this YouTube channel and my journals and my books that I write and biking and walking my dog, those help with the contraction, because if all you have is flow arts, when you get injured, it's really hard to be selective. I know friends who had to have like a neck surgery because they jacked up their neck from training 8 hours a day. They just tried to push through the injury, and our bodies don't work like that. Okay, the 8th topic is social networking as expansion, and then protecting your energy is contraction. So the expansion is when you meet new artists, connect online, comment, maybe collaborate. But then contraction is when you reduce exposure to toxic people, drama, and draining relationships. Now, when you meet new people, they're usually on their best behavior. They're cool, they're supportive, but then over time, you'll have to contract your inner circle not to involve everyone. Because, well, let's be honest, there's a lot of flow artists who are not very advanced as humans. They're good at spinning balls in circles, but they still have a lot of drama. The 8th type of expansion and contraction is when you expand your social network and then you contract to protect your energy. This is where you meet a ton of new people online through comments and Facebook groups and what have you, and at festivals you meet them and jam and learn things with them, and you follow up with those same people later when you follow each other, and maybe at local jams you end up hanging out and grabbing drinks with somebody afterward, or just hanging out one-on-one. You expand your social network and then you contract and pick and choose the new people to add to your inner circle. I've done this so many times. I feel like I'm pretty good at this one, where I do go to a lot of social events, and then shortly thereafter I set up hangouts where we can have a more focused session with like a really meaningful goal. So I go to jams and I see people who are like really dedicated to their prop, and I hire them to perform with me, I hire them to film with me, I have them over for dinner, invite them to my like smaller jams, and just invite them for one-on-one passing sessions and things like that. Not all of them perform, not all of them even have social media, but they all want a tighter inner circle with people who, have the same props in common. What I wrote was, creative energy is limited. Protecting it keeps your art sustainable. So you cannot give the same amount of effort and focus to each new friend. You have to have some, your tight circle of, 5 to 10 people, then your medium circle of 10 to 20, and then your big circle of unlimited. So in order to protect your energy from drama and like addictions and people venting too much and relational stress, the key obviously is to set boundaries up front, but like so many flow artists, myself included, are bad at that. And so when it comes to protecting your energy, the contraction comes from just quietly saying no to certain people when they tell on themselves right away. When they try to smoke a cigarette in your car, when they hit on your girlfriend, when they take too many drugs, when they stay up late, when they send you too many weird memes. They just do these little things that have you contracting away from them. And they stay in the outer circle or the middle circle, and they just don't make it to your inner circle. They never get a one-on-one hang with you. Your energy is this subtle thing, right, that gets impacted and with ripple effect you never can really predict. So protect your energy at all costs, especially as you enter your 30s, because probably you're in a career or you have at least hopefully some meaningful projects that you realize you do not have the energy you used to. You really only have, 2 to 4 hours a day for socializing, and the rest of it is for work and fitness or meditation, what have you. And you know what your path is. Hopefully by your 30s, you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you should be able to tell rather quickly if somebody is on the same path as you. If not, you really should journal more about your boundaries and about the kind of people you want in your life. And if they don't meet those criteria, practice saying no. Maybe the new flow arts you need to pick up is a social one. I definitely said yes to too many people, and they stabbed me in the back or made me look bad. This applies to dating too, but we're not going to get into that. I think a lot of flow artists are just so excited when they finally meet other people with whom they have hobbies in common that they say yes to everything. And most flow artists are not very high achieving outside of their prop spinning. And so if you do want to be a high achiever or an elite performer or make a lot of money or own a home or any of the things that take like incredible amounts of dedication, just really protect your energy. Just, hey, I'll see you at the next jam. Hey, I'll see you at the next festival. But don't give them that one-on-one energy, because that's where they really can sap your energy. They can really leech if you expose yourself to a one-on-one hangout or a really small group hangout. Okay, the 9th type of expansion and contraction is spiritual exploration. as the expansion, and then personal integration as the contraction. So the expansion is when you explore meditation, movement philosophy, flow state theory, performance psychology, like listening to the Flow Arts Curator on YouTube. This is your expansion. I'm gonna throw a lot of stuff at you. The contraction is when you choose which parts you agree with and which of my advice you actually want to apply, right? The contraction is you keep only the practices that actually improve your focus and creativity. If you ever hear me or another public speaker say something that like totally improves your clarity, and you go, oh my gosh, I never thought about expanding and contracting. I always thought it was just one linear graph. That is when you must apply it, right? A lot of us, I don't like the term a lot of the red pill guys use. They call it mental masturbation. I don't like that. I prefer just constant learning with never applying. So start applying some of what you hear. Start applying some of what the thought leaders and performance mentors that you have tell you. Apply it in small chunks, and not every philosophy needs to stay in your life, right? I may tell you that you need to focus on 1 prop for a year, or focus on 10 props for a year, depending on which video it is. You don't have to apply everything we tell you. You do need to journal a bit when it comes to expansion and contraction, because there's all this signal, all this noise, all these sources of wisdom coming at you, and you can only apply like 1 at a time, I found. So create little projects or little get-togethers where you can apply some of the philosophy that you hear about what we talk about here and see if it rings true. And if it does, maybe don't listen to any of my or other spoken content for a couple days. Really let it sink in and really apply it and see if it improves your flow tricks, your social networking, your performances, or your content online. I think a lot of we can expand a lot and have no boundaries. We're just constantly expanding and adding new information with podcasts all the time. But the contraction only happens when you stop listening to those podcasts. So when it comes to spiritual exploration, there's a lot of people out there who want validation for what they did by you saying, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Or even just watching their video, giving them time, right? Because the way YouTube and everything rolls up metrics is if you watch something, you validated it. And I encourage you to expand spiritually all the time, but contract and apply it before you add another layer. I listen to a lot of gurus online, I really do. Left wing, right wing, gay, straight. I think even some Muslim, some Christian, many atheist, some academic, some more blue collar. And what I've realized is, I like to have a balance of all of them, but it actually jumbles my brain. It's too much signal. So the contraction happens during the silence in the 2 or 3 days between listening to the bigger podcasts. I encourage you to do the same. When it comes to flow, even flowing without music, right? Because the new music stimulates your brain in a new way, and then the movement art that matches that music is going to have some new types of flow to it. Maybe you just listen to one artist this week to really get to know their stuff, and then you move on to a new one. I don't know what form it's going to take for you, but if you're spiritually expanding all the time, right? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Find some little hills to die on in your own mind. I'm not going to have my phone in bed because I want to be in touch with my inner self. I'm not going to, let's come up with some other examples. I'm not going to argue with my partner this week because it just leads to headbutting and doesn't help anyone. These are so obvious. I'm not going to try to learn new moves until I get that old one down. That's a classic. Kind of hard to force it, but I think you get the point. This one's really tough. Meditation, movement philosophy, flow state theory, performance psychology. I do believe you can expand and contract in that, but it looks so different for everyone. All I want to say in conclusion for number 9 is, as you spiritually expand, it's very hard to contract unless you're journaling and committing to the goals you set for yourself in your journal. Okay, the final topic of expansion and contraction is career opportunities for expansion and then strategic focus for contraction. So as you expand, you explore gigs, teaching, tutorials, festivals, online content, and workshops. But when you contract, you focus on the few things that generate the most impact or income. So for me, I've really switched from like just flow videos and cool hiking places more to tutorials filmed with a really boring background. And I've switched from writing music to making flow philosophy videos. Why? Because they've been sitting in the back of my mind for 10 years now, these journals, and I cannot pursue a career as a musician and a public speaker at the same time. Some people can, but alas, I cannot. And so I've contracted to making 100 YouTube vlogs to become a thought leader. I set that goal in my journal, and I set it for myself to try. Okay, if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But when I look in the mirror, I see someone who took a stab at it. Someone who journaled, enacted those journals for years, the goals in them, and then reflected on it. That was the real goal. So I already have an established career in sales. But I also would like to have an arm of my career be in flow arts. This is the only way I can try that. For you, that perhaps could be getting an affiliate link sponsorship, so you focus on making tutorials and prop reviews. Maybe you want to have a career as a performer, so you focus on like really clean choreography with big flashy costumes and musicality. Perhaps you want a career as a DJ at flow events, so you expand, get a bunch of new music you know flow artists like, and you contract it into a 1-hour set that you DJ at your local rave. Perhaps you want to be known as a videographer, so you buy a bunch of equipment, you figure out which hardware and software you actually need to get good flow videos, and you just commit to making 100 flow videos for your flow-mies. Maybe you want to teach at festivals, so you focus on teaching people in real life and getting some testimonials and some feedback on how to teach better in person, and you even land a couple clients online. These are all examples of flow career opportunities that you cannot do everything. You can't post free flow, you can't post prop reviews, you can't do this type of content. You just don't have the bandwidth per day, most likely, and so you'll have to be very selective about what you do. Time spent on your highest leverage work compounds your success, right? The graph will go whoop, and it'll exponentially jump when you work on high leverage activities. Or build really strong trust with a select few as opposed to trying to please everyone. For me, that was like, I tried using trendy music for a while, I just couldn't do it. I'm glad I tried to try to grow and connect with the more mainstream audience, but I'm just gonna keep contracting and working with at this point it could be 5 to 10 people, honestly, for all I care. The people who I really vibe with. And to have a career in flow arts, you absolutely have to have a core group that goes to bat for you. You can't just have a bunch of people who are like, yeah, his flow's cool. Yeah, I'll tap his video so that he taps mine, you know? These last couple topics are very hard for me to describe, and I appreciate you for sticking along and really giving it a chance, but career opportunities and strategic focus, that's a tough one. I mean, careers in the flow arts are so self-driven. In order for you to advance them, you really do have to cut out a lot of the extra BS. If you want to be known as a good teacher, you can't be partying late at night at flow festivals. You have to contract into doing a good job at that workshop. You want to be a good performer, you're probably not partying the night before, you're probably drilling, you're probably prioritizing sleep and nutrition and meditation so that you can do a good job in your stage act. If your career involves something difficult, you cannot do all the fun stuff on either side of it and expect for the career to advance. Socially, you'll have fun, and socially you'll make new friends, but to do a really good job at any of these specialized roles at these flow events that we go to, even at a jam, prioritizing mental health will exponentially improve your credibility with your new clients. That's a tough one. I feel like a lot of people are not willing to make the sacrifices required to advance a flow arts career. They just dream about it. They don't have a strategic focus. I'm a poi spinner. Well, I'd rather be a poi teacher. I'm a poi juggler. I'd rather be a performing juggler. And I really have had to contract the last couple years to just focus on those exact tricks and the tutorials that I want to teach. I have Instagram videos out, I have sent customized videos, and I have multiple master classes, long form on YouTube teaching those things. I have focused on those for like 3 or 4 years now, because that's what I want to have my career be in. Poi juggling and poi swaps. Simple, straightforward. I've really contracted to focus on those because I want to have a career as a poi teacher with online content. Okay, enough rambling. Every artist eventually faces the question, what am I willing to ignore so that something else can become great? Expansion gives you possibility. Contraction gives you mastery. Expansion and contraction. I'm curious, over your experience over the years, what have you had to contract in order to achieve? What have you had to sacrifice? How has your focus shifted? What was your goal and what did you give up? What did you sacrifice to achieve it? As always, I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one.